everybody. Welcome to Wine and Wisdom with Lauren and Tara. This
doesn't like it when I do the sound effect. She's like, I'm putting that in.
And today we don't have a specific intention for this episode, but we were just chatting right before, and we should have been recording it. But we thought we'd just chat about like the mindset work that we do, kind of what comes up for us, how we work through it.
How it is that we manifest what we want intentionally.
Yeah.
We both kind of have like slightly different processes, and what works for us. And and I think that that's the key, is like finding a process that really works for you. I know for both Tara and I, like consuming content from other people, like always feeding into our belief system around the fact that manifestation is a real thing is a big part. But today we'll talk more specifically about, the actual processes that we apply and why.
Yeah. So. Actually, I have a question for you. So I really love journaling. And this morning I was kind of working through a bunch of limiting beliefs, and I just thought to myself, okay, what are my top 3? And I also asked this to our mutual client, Sherry. What are your top 3, like, it works in terms of manifestation? Like, if you were only going to do 3 things to manifest, what would it be?
This is good. Well, are we just jumping right into the episode, or are we going to do like
dive in?
I just spilled wine all over myself.
First ever Wine and Wisdom unboxing. So, rosé mix.
Charged us like $50 for this. I thought Lauren's a lightweight, so she'll be drunk for sure. If we do it, what are you laughing at?
Look at your feet. Why do they look like that?
It's a Niagara wine. Not that fancy. Polished. All right.
Or anything but polished.
Cue intro. And we're back. Okay. So, so 3 things that if I could only do 3 things.
I can start with mine if you want more time to
I'll say as many as I can think of, and then if I don't come up with 3, you can talk, because I'm sure more will come to me. Visualization is my number 1, where I like close my eyes. I usually listen to like a track or like binaural beats or something that like just helps me kind of zoom in. Sometimes I listen to music. I have found that like music helps to create emotion behind what I'm thinking about, or add emotion.
Yeah.
And then I'll play over a scene or a couple different scenes that represent the manifestation of what I want. So that's like my number 1. Beyond that, I definitely like when I'm visualizing, what I believe is like when you set that intention and you're visualizing it as if it's happening, and that's the really key part there. Whatever it is that you need to work through will come to the surface. So we don't have to go looking for all of our blocks. A lot of the time people are like, I'm not getting what I want, I must have blocks. It's not that you like, unless it's becoming abundantly clear to you, it's not blocks, it's that you're telling yourself that you don't have what you want. And so that's pushing it away. Right.
Yeah.
But if there are things that need to be worked through, they will make themselves known to you. It'll be like a piece of resistance that comes up, or in a conversation with somebody else. So it's like when I'm setting intentions, I'm just open to, whatever it is that might need to be worked through for me. And then what I usually do is like, so let's say I'm like setting intentions for more money. One thing that came up in the summer was that I didn't actually feel like I could handle more money on like the back end of things. And that became like really apparent to me, where all of a sudden I had all this resistance of like, but I need a bookkeeper, and how do I, like, it just didn't feel organized. So I went to work there, and I started like reframing that for myself, but also putting systems in place. And that was an example. And then number 3, I do really like scripting, but I don't use it all the time, and that's where like you're writing like it's like an acting as if, but in writing. I've also done it where I've like, written a Instagram post from the future or whatever, but you're writing.
right?
Yeah. You're writing about what you want as if it's already happened, and you're like just making up scenarios. And you can really get into the vibe of like, oh my God, my soulmate and I just had the most amazing day today, and we went here and blah, blah, blah. And like at first you feel kind of like a crazy person because you're making up things that haven't actually happened. Mm-hmm. But you can really start to like trick your mind into feeling as if it's already happened.
Yeah.
So I would say that those are probably like my 3 biggest things that I do. But for me, it's like visualization and then seeing what comes up and what I need to work through, what is in my way. But I don't go looking for it. I let it show itself to me. It's like part of the process, part of the unfolding.
Yeah.
Visualization and then seeing what comes up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my top 3 things when I'm like, okay, that when things happen the fastest and I know like that it works, like for example, it's like when I manifested Trevor, when I manifested Bali, and when I manifested paying off my debt, those were just like so intentional. And the things that were in common were get really specific, not like super specific, but fairly specific on what I want, which kind of goes against my like human design. I'm supposed to be more general. And then get like delusionally into the feeling. So I remember when I was paying off my credit card all day long, I'd just be like, I'd be walking, I'd be like, oh, I just paid off my credit card. That feels so good. Like I'd get into the feeling as much as possible. So like getting into the vibe, I think is really big for me. Not that you need to be there all the time. And I'm never there all the time. Like that's not really possible. But I feel like if I get really intentional about like constantly feeling into it. So right now, even if I'm saying this, I'm feeling into my goal. Like I made 40K this month. It feels so good. I'm so proud. I'm so successful. Like I feel accomplished or whatever. And then visualization for sure. Like I feel like I need to visualize every single day, like get clear on what that picture is in my mind of when it's done and visualize. And then, I mean, it kind of is very similar to Lauren, but I like to journal every day and like write out my, stop talking. I need to journal out my kind of what I want and notice the resistance. So not like I'm looking for it, but if I write it out and it doesn't feel good, if I'm like, oh, that feels like not really possible, or I'm not really like feeling the vibe, then I'll be like, okay, what's coming up for me? And I'll just kind of like work through it and disprove it. So it'll be like, is this true? No. And really letting it go. So for example, if my goal is, it is 40K months and my limiting belief is like, well, I haven't made enough yet for it to be like a 40K month yet. Then I look at it, I'm like, well, is it true that I have to make a certain amount by September 23rd in order to succeed in my goals? Like, no, I could make 40K in one day. Like, who knows what's possible? So I'll just kind of like I'll challenge the limiting belief and I'll keep writing it out and challenging it until it feels good again. And then I'll kind of move on. So those are my top 3. I also love scripting. Feeling the feelings, visualizing.
Yeah. Can you give an example of scripting for people that maybe haven't really heard of that?
Well, I kind of want to read out my one that I did of Trevor. Can I get it?
Okay.
This was framed, but I'm getting a new frame for it. So I wrote this on November 29th, 2019. The very next day, Trevor called me the first time. And I wrote it out as if it was December 31st, 2020. So that hasn't even happened yet. Said, wow, I set the intention 1 year ago that I would live in faith and alignment with my end goal, no matter what, for an entire year. I would live in a space of utmost certainty. That led me to the most incredible year of my life. I could cry looking back on all the magic that unfolded. This is like so real. It's crazy. It doesn't feel quite real yet. I met my person. We both knew right away and fell hard. It was perfect. It's been the most joy-filled and love-filled year thanks to him. We moved into a gorgeous place together. He blew my mind with the proposal. I was totally shocked, and the ring is the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He is the reason why everything else didn't work, and I can see now that everything led me to him, and he says the same. I adore him more than anything. He's my safe place. I'm obsessed with this life and truly wake up pitching myself every day. Honestly, who knows what's happening next? And that's a really good way at like collapsing time, like stepping into that version of you and be like, what's happening next? And I'm like, I'll probably have a baby. I feel ready for that. Plus a mini me and the love of my life. I cannot wait to make him a dad. Keep in mind, I've never even knew this person existed yet. Thank you.
That's not true, actually.
Well, okay, I knew he existed, but I didn't know he was going to be my husband. We've never spoken yet. Thank you, universe, for showing me the way through various heartbreaks and struggles. It was all so perfectly timed, and it all led me here to this moment. I'm bursting with so much love and happiness, I can barely contain myself.
Scripting.
The next day, I met him. 2 weeks later, we were engaged.
Watch our previous episode on that topic.
Yes. Just a fiance. Yeah. So just, I mean, however you guys like to do it, it's just the whole purpose is feel the feelings. If you're just like writing it out and you're feeling like this isn't true, this is bullshit, it's not going to work.
Yeah. Imagine it. And like if you're starting to script about it and it's not feeling real, keep going, keep just making up stories or keep playing that over in your mind. I did the first time I ever really used scripting very intentionally was when I was launching my first ever mastermind, which was like a little over a year ago. Mm-hmm. And at the time I felt really inconsistent in my business. I had like one program that was successful for me, but everything else I launched, I felt like it always fell flat. I felt like just, unstable in my income. And so having another program that I could launch and make like 15K was a big deal to me because it meant more consistency. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I started I think maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the launch, I started scripting about like what it felt like to, I'm sure I have it somewhere, I have no idea where, but I scripted out what it felt like to be working with these people in this mastermind of like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here in my business. I can't believe like all these people trust me with their dreams and they see me as their coach, but it just feels so natural. I love, talking to them about their ideas and their business and helping them work through that. And so-and-so, and I would like sometimes just make up names. So-and-so reached out to me today and told me she had like such a breakthrough and she was so happy and blah, blah, blah. And I love like watching them interact with each other in like our group chat. And I would get like really specific and I would write different stories each day. Mm-hmm. And by the time that the mastermind launched, it was so like, it's like I couldn't really imagine it not being successful. And I wasn't in belief about it the whole time because it was like a 2-week launch. And I had room for like 6 people. So it wasn't like a big program, but each person was paying quite a bit of money, right? Mm-hmm. So it took like, I think 5 days before the first person signed up. But it's hard, except that I was still like, they're coming. Like they're coming because I know that they're coming. Like I've felt them already. I feel like they're already here. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't mean that I never had times where I was like, oh my God, this launch is going to fail. How am I going to pay rent? Blah, blah, blah. But it's like I had practiced it enough times that was still where my momentum was, right? Mm-hmm. Was behind and so you can do that with literally anything. And after even just a few times, it really starts to feel like it's already happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And once you can really get into that feeling of it being happening and you kind of like you end your visualization or you close your journal and you kind of look up and you're like, whoa, like it felt like you were there. That's when you've really planted kind of the seed in your subconscious mind. And I've been reading this book called The Secret of the Ages, and it's so good. It's very like Neville Goddard-esque. And he talks about how like you don't plant a seed and then dig it up every day to make sure like it's growing. It's like you need to plant it and then you need to have the utmost faith that it's coming up. You need to water it and nurture it every day. And like that's how you manifest. Like you set the intention that's planting the seed, you get clear, and then you nourish it and water it every day by doing stuff like this, like scripting, visualizing, feeling the feelings. But you like faith will move mountains. Like I feel like it's the hardest thing to like develop your faith, but once you have it, anything is possible. Like I feel like that's why my friend Chelsea is like so successful, because she has like such a high level of faith. Like she's quite religious, and just like seeing her faith is just like next level. It's like you have this knowing.
Yeah, the only way I've ever been able to get into that place of knowing for mm-hmm. me, because I've tried to be like, if I just believe it hard enough, and I usually crash and burn after a while, like where I'm like, it's coming. And then like when it doesn't look like I start getting like angry about it, like I wasn't religious by any means. So like, I think it's like a conscious way of being that really serves her. But if you don't have that, that's where I think playing it over in your mind over and over in whatever way serves you, it starts to like hardwire into your subconscious. You start to actually feel as if it was a memory. And I was just talking to a friend of mine who like manifested the love of her life in the last few months. And it's funny because I've known her for like 5 years, and she always talked about him. She always talked about what he was going to be like, and that she knew it was hers and blah, blah, blah. And so then it happened like 3 months ago, and I met him and he's amazing and whatever. And now she's like, she's imagining being proposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I was doing this exercise. She told me this yesterday. I was doing this exercise a couple of days ago where like you recalibrate your energy basically by first visiting like a sad memory and then visiting a happy memory. And it's like recalibrating. And she's like, when I went for the happy memory, what was right there for me was, oh, well, remember when he proposed to me? And then she's like, oh, that hasn't actually happened yet. But that was just like a perfect example of play it over and over in your mind. And it literally starts to feel like a memory because your subconscious mind does not know the difference between what's actually happening and what you're just imagining. That's why like you imagine biting into a lemon and your mouth waters, right? It doesn't know the difference. And so you don't like?
No, it just happened. Like my little, when you said it.
And so if you can play over in your mind, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this, like you can't want for something that you already feel like you have. And you feel like you have it through continuously, and it doesn't have to take a long time, but continuously tuning into practicing the feelings, the visualizations of it already being yours.
Yeah. And like from my understanding and what I kind of believe is like, you can't just like see the picture in your mind. You could, but it's like tying in the emotion to it is so much more powerful for your subconscious mind. What's your thoughts on that?
So I don't think you have to feel the emotions because there's lots of things that I've like offhandedly thought about and manifested.
Yeah.
And lots of things in that, like, it's not like I used to, before I knew about manifesting, I manifested things all the time. I wasn't like laying down, manifesting, closing my eyes. I know. So I think that I believe in like the observer effect, quantum physics. Just by thinking about something and observing it as a possibility, you like create it in the physical realm. But yes, I believe that what you said is the more emotion you put behind it, it like supercharges it. Mm-hmm. Right. And you're like, you basically start experiencing it, not just in your mind, but in your entire body. Yeah. And so if you can get emotion behind it, that's even better. But if you are doing a visualization or scripting, if you're doing a visualization or scripting, and you can't get your emotion behind it, then that's okay. Like keep doing it anyways. Your emotion behind it, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do the visualization, right? Because sometimes it'll feel amazing and other times it won't.
Yeah. And something that I practice that I found really helpful is bringing up an emotion that's super easy. And this sounds so silly, but for me, it is like thinking about my cats. And it's like, I'll picture Revy just on me, like purring and how much I love him. And then I'll bring up my like what I want. And there's other ways that people do that, like in terms of like having an orgasm, and then they will think about their manifestation, which I always forget to do. I was actually rewatching that video. I don't know if you remember, we literally talked about that on Wine and Wisdom, and I was like, I'm going to do that. I was watching that.
I have heard about this. I've never tried it.
About it on Wine and Wisdom one time.
I don't remember
but yeah, if you're having trouble like bringing up the emotion, if you like don't really know what the feeling is, or like you're like, I don't know how it's going to feel, it's never happened to me before, it's like bring up a high vibration emotion. So like gratitude, appreciation, love. Like, is there something you can think of? Because like people are like, oh yeah, like I love my partner, but that can bring up resistance, like, because we all have our things, like, but if you can think of something that you just think of it and it just brings you so much happiness and pure love, and then think about your manifestation, I feel like that's really powerful. And then one other thing that I really love to do is record my affirmations to binaural beats and listen to them as I fall asleep. And when I do that, I feel like things happen so quickly because I'm in that subconscious state. I'm half awake, half not. And I'm listening to myself say, like, I make $40K a month. Like, I accomplished all my goals. I'm driving my beautiful Range Rover. And I'm, like, seeing myself doing it, and I'm not quite awake. And it feels so real. And I feel like that really works.
I like what you said about, like, getting onto the vibe on a different topic and then, like, switching over. Rather than, like, if you're in, like, a low vibe or, like, feeling scarcity around money, and then you're like, but I actually have all this money, blah, blah, blah. It's like a big jump. Whereas if you can get to a place of abundance, being like, wow, the sunset tonight was amazing. Like, how incredible is it to watch the sunset? I feel so grateful. I feel so abundant that I get to witness this, blah, blah, blah. You get yourself into the vibe on that topic and then switch over onto the topic of...
Change the channel.
Change the channel where you're like, wow, I love that I get to pay all my bills on time, or like I love that I have internet, you know, like I love that I always have food on the table and that money is never like a worry for me in my basic needs or whatever it is for you. But I like that.
Yeah. I was going to mention an appreciation rampage. Something that I've been doing lately that just really gets me in such a good vibration is like take a piece of paper, grab your pen, and just start writing things you appreciate and feeling appreciation. But like starting with the smallest things. So I'll be like, oh my God, I love writing on my iPad. I love this color. I love my nails. Like I love like that I'm in this comfortable bed, and like I just start feeling into the feelings, and I get on such a roll. Like I can just like fill 2 pages and I feel like I'm like up leveling my vibration so much. And then I go throughout my day and I'm already in such a good vibe, and I didn't have to like, it doesn't feel forced. It just feels great to like appreciate things, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think starting with like the really, really small things rather than trying to be like, I feel so much appreciation for money. Like maybe you don't, and that's okay.
Like even when you say that, it brings up resistance for me, even though I have money.
See, I can do a rampage of appreciation around money. I did one, like Tara and I will just like voice clip each other. And I did one today. It's actually not hard for me because I feel, okay, here's what I know to be true about money for me. And this is something I had to like really create. It's always flowing my way. I love that. Okay, so this is an example of like a rampage of appreciation around money. And this is like true for me. If I did this every day, that would be really good. I should do that. And I've literally done this before and had like someone buy something for $1,000 off my website as I'm doing it.
I was listening to the voice note. Lauren's like rampaging, and then she's like, oh, I just made $1,000.
Yeah. Like that's a week of work for like my old job, you know? Anyways. So what I know to be true about money and what I can appreciate about money is that like, I love that I get to create things that feel so like I would do this work for free, but I got to make great money doing it. And I'm always thinking of like new ways to make money, and people know what my value is and they love to pay for it. And the investments that they make in my business, you know, like change their lives and have a lasting impact. And I love that I get to like buy the things that I want to buy. I love the experience of money. I love that I can eat out whenever I want. Like I love that the money I want and need is always there, even if I have like old ways of thinking that sometimes crop up. I love, you know, what money has enabled me to create in my life. I have a very like abundant life that I love, that I regularly feel appreciation for, and money makes all of that available to me. Like even just doing this right now, I'm already like, oh my God, why am I ever mad at money? It is so good for me, you know? Like I think even if we just did this for you know, and actually my magic is launching next week. And we are making some changes about this, because you could do this on any, like we're making a little bit of a shift in our process, kind of as like a test, but it's like instead of setting these like goals, these specific goals of like I make $50,000 a month, instead just playing into appreciation for what already is, right? Because what you think about, you attract more of, or what you focus on expands, right? So even just in me saying that, I'm like, I love it. Like money has really fucking showed up for me when I think about it, but I often don't, you know, it's like, it's just so habitual to be like, oh, I wish I had more, or I wish, you know, I this or that or the other thing, or why aren't more people signing up for my program, or why did I just get that $50 parking ticket? Like it's just so habitual to go back to like this scarcity mindset. Even when you do have money, people think that they'll get a certain amount of money and the worry will be gone. It doesn't work that way. No. You have to practice not having the worry, right? Because otherwise it's like there's always going to be things to worry about around money. I still have money worries. They're just different than they used to be.
Yeah. Millionaires still have the same things. It's just like getting to a new level of trust. The saying, like, people that are listening to this may not try this out loud, but I highly recommend doing what Lauren just did out loud. Like my favorite time to do it is when I'm driving. I'll just be like, I'll just start like saying what I'm really grateful for, or I'll kind of do what Lauren did, but be like, oh my God, I just made 40K. Like I'm driving in my Range Rover. It's so beautiful. Like this feels like people are staring at me like I'm such a fucking boss. And like, I'm so happy that I get to drive this everywhere. And like, look at my little refrigerator, and I'll just go on a tangent and really play into the feeling of it. And it depends what mood you're in. Like these things are going to work like amazingly, when you're kind of in a high vibe, sometimes you need to start a lot more general. So like if bringing up resistance if you say like, I made 40K this month and you're like, but I'm not even fucking close, like, and it doesn't feel good, that's when, just go way more general. Be like, oh, I love this. I love that I have a car that I get to drive. And like, I love that I get to go places and like, look at the sunshine or whatever. But yeah, go more general if you're struggling with this.
Well, and one thing that like really just occurred to me and just doing that, like that felt powerful even, and I was just doing that. I wasn't doing that as like a mindset practice. I'm like, I need to do this every day, because I immediately was like, look at all the ways in which money shows up for me. And I could have done that, 2 years ago when I was super in debt and didn't feel like I did have money at all. I could have still found things to be appreciative of, but if I were to do that practice, like what I just did, and stay with it for a few minutes, and then it's like you work your way up to being like, oh my God, I actually just am so grateful for what I have. From there, I'd easily be able to be like, and I can't wait for like my first 50K month and for it just to get easier and easier and easier. And like, it already feels like it's here and it's just blah, 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 blah. Like, it's such a different escalation of emotion rather than trying to jump from like, oh, I'm worried about money to I make however much money, right? Like there's just, that's I think where a lot of the resistance comes from. So
something that I really love doing, I like typing it out. I call it climbing the vibrational ladder. And this is a great mindset practice, and you can start anywhere. So you literally just start with a sentence of like where you are at in that moment. So I would be like, I feel like happy and content that I'm drinking wine and talking to Lauren. And then you kind of like sit with that for a moment, and then you allow the next kind of better feeling thought to come in. So you're not trying to force it. It really is just like, okay, I feel happy and content and then I'd be like, I'm really excited that we get to do wine and wisdom after this. And then I'm like, I'm really excited that me and Trevor can like have a little date night tonight. And like, I feel really pretty right now. I'm like, look at how good my makeup is. And it's like, you just start like sit with each sentence, type it out, and then go to the next best feeling sentence. And by the time you finish, like you are like 10
vibing so high.
Yeah. And it's like, you don't have to force anything. You literally just sit with it and allow, I think that's what I really learned. It's like, I don't have to think of the next best feeling thought. It comes as a result of law of attraction. And then you're just feeling into each thought and like letting the next one come. It's a really fun exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to start doing a lot more of that because it feels so good to be like, yeah. Especially like, I think for me, resistance around money comes up when I'm like spending a lot. Yeah. And I like spending money. It's like, I can feel really good about it. And then I like buy a bunch of things I wasn't really planning on buying. Yeah. $600 Chanel glasses today.
For us, put them on for us.
This was like such a impulse purchase today. I'm getting a new car. I'm getting a new car.
Mercedes and her Chanel sunglasses. Like you are.
That was literally, I was like, you know what I need for my new car is a pair of Chanel sunglasses. Like that was my best
tire, but Chanel sunglasses.
Like not like winter tires for the spare car. Or not the spare car, sorry, for the new car.
I'm so excited. We're going to do a YouTube video soon on how we manifested our dream cars.
Yeah, but it's like, so if I buy a bunch of things that I wasn't really planning on buying, sometimes resistance comes up, and that would be a really powerful practice to go to. It'd be like, you know what? Whenever I buy, like the universe loves for me to like expand and create new desires and use like my abundance to, you know, enjoy life and have the nice things and inspire other people to do the same and to share their gifts with the world and, you know, step into their worthiness and blah, blah, blah. Like it changes my vibe instantly around. I mean, I felt really good about the Chanel sunglasses. It felt like the universe just wants me to have these today. But there are times when I spend and I start getting into a place of anxiety about it. And you could easily shift that through a rampage of appreciation.
Yeah. One other thing to add is like, you don't have to start in a good place with that climbing the vibrational ladder. Like a lot of times I use that when I'm in a really negative place. So I'm like, I'm really sad and angry and upset about this. And then I'll like kind of be like, what's a slightly better feeling thought? Like, well, I know that this will pass or whatever. It's like, you don't have to start high and go higher. You can start low and get to neutral.
Yeah.
One other thing, like, okay, so we talked about our favorite manifestation practices, how we manifest.
Could I just say one thing about the sunglasses? And you don't have to go out and spend a whole bunch of money to do this. You could do it in an easier way. Part of it is that, and it's the same thing with like my Mercedes, is that when I am in, when I'm wearing the sunglasses, I feel abundant as fuck. But I started doing this with, these are the only Chanel things I've ever bought. Like, I'm not even really a labels person, but maybe that's changing. I don't know.
Maybe you are.
But so I have a few different shades of this Chanel lipstick because when I put it on, I immediately feel different.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, a couple of years ago, I wouldn't have bought $600 sunglasses.
But now you can because you've done the mindset work.
And I'm saying, like, sometimes these things are an investment in, it's like, when you invest in the things that you really want and that make you feel abundant, you're drawing more of that to you, because every time I put these sunglasses on, I'm going to be like, I'm the person who wears Chanel sunglasses. And it's not about the sunglasses. It's about the way that, it's about the ways that you trick yourself into feeling more abundant, right? And you don't have to spend money to do that. You can, dress yourself up each day. You can spend a little bit more,
nails really feel good.
Right. You can spend a little bit more time on your hair or your makeup or whatever. But doing things that put you into a vibe of abundance or a vibe of love. Love is definitely one that you can tap into without spending any money.
Yeah.
You can tap into abundance without spending any money easily. Go look at the sunset. Look at the trees. Look at the grass, the flowers. Like, it's all amazing. And these are things that I do on like a regular basis where I'm like just all the time, I'm like, I can't believe the sunset. Like every day I feel that way. And it's like, pardon?
You do have the best view.
Well, yeah, but I used to do that. Like, I would walk down the street, like leaving my apartment where I had no outdoor space or anything, and just be like, I love people watching. I love walking down the street. I love all these shops that I live around. And I've just always been someone who tunes into the abundance in individual moments.
Like appreciation, I feel like.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And also just I can remember being quite young and just being like, the world is really quite an amazing place.
Mm-hmm.
How are we not all freaking out all the time?
I know. Well, like that. I was thinking about that recently because I was a little bit high in the bath listening to Abraham Hicks, and they were talking about how when you go into the vortex, if you guys are into Abraham, you would know when you die, it's everything, you release all these things. It's the most magical experience. This sounds kind of weird, but I was thinking how when you die, you're literally just experiencing life and life on earth with no more worries, doubts, or fears. And how fucking beautiful would everything be? Everything is magical when you look at it from that way.
The bathtub is a good example of
bathtub, yes.
I sit in the bathtub and I'm like, look at all this water. It is amazing that I can just turn on this tap and this abundance of clean, hot water flows into.
So lucky. Seriously.
We're so lucky. So this is what I mean. It's it's not about the Chanel sunglasses. I started and still, I feel way more abundant about water or the sunset or whatever on a daily basis, tuning into those moments and training your brain to look for the good.
Yeah. Right? That's a huge thing that I think we forget, or we don't forget, but other people may forget, is you don't have to have the thing to feel the feelings. So something an example that always resonated with me is when you win the lottery, if you win the lottery and they call you and you just won $20 million, whatever. The money's not in your bank account yet, but all of a sudden your entire life has changed. Even though nothing has changed on the outside externally, it's your mindset has changed. So if you can tap into the feeling of someone just walks up to you and hands you $100,000 on the street, how does that feel? You're literally becoming a match for money. And that's what draws it in. It's just the mistake that we make is thinking we have to have the thing, then we feel the feelings. But if you feel the feelings, the thing will come.
An example of this that everyone can relate to is when you're about to go on a vacation. You're not on a vacation yet. You're still at work, but you're in vacation mode and you're feeling good and you're happy. And then flash forward 7 days and you're on the beach. You're still on vacation, but you know that you have to go home and you're already living in that future. Right.
Yeah.
So we were
just, that was on the Abraham video, wasn't it? I was just listening to that one. Yeah. It's so interesting. Because it is about the whole journey. I liked how they gave that vacation example, because it's even though you're going to end right back up home, you're not going to not go on the vacation. It's we think that there's this end goal, but there's never an end. It's always continuous. We're always shifting and changing and growing. So it really is all about just getting into such appreciation and love for where you are. So cliche, but so true. We do that in My Magic.
Yeah, which we have to leave because we're about to go live inside of. So
you want to join us?
Yeah, put yourself on the wait list in the description box and join us starting October 1st. Change your life.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Review. What is it? What are you supposed to say?
Like, subscribe, review. Yeah, click the bell notification so that you'll know when we upload a new video.
Where are you?
We're not. No, we're not. Bye, guys.
Goodbye.